but there's only one story here. Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders dropping. We talked about this last week with Raybon and Evan. How did this impact your bets, seeing how he dropped?
I mean, I lost money on it. I thought the over. I like the over 2.5 quarterbacks first round, and it just goes to show that I think you kind of got to tell on what people you can kind of trust and follow in the sports media that give out these mocks. I just don't understand how these people, it's their jobs. And you had people saying he was their top five guy, their number one quarterback on their draft board. And this dude went in the fifth round. So there's clearly a disconnect there. Like I can't wrap my head around that part because it's like I get a lot of it. A lot of these people are phonies and they don't really talk to anybody. But like, how could you have been so off? And typical fashion, the stories come out after, right, Chad? It's like apparently he wore headphones to meetings at the combine when he's meeting with teams with music playing on his headphones, and then puts it around his neck while the music keeps playing while doing the interviews with these teams. I can't wrap my head around if that's real. If that's real, it truly is insane that he was self-sabotaging because there's teams he didn't want to go to where, yeah, the NFL, it's a business. It is a sports league, but if you take them to court, they say entertainment first. I don't know the collusion. I know Chad doesn't know about the collusion, but something went on. Like this kid, anyone could tell you, he's got second round talent at worst, right? His arm talent, things he can do in the field. Okay, personality, bump him down to a third round, Chad. I'll give him that. But for this kid to drop to the fifth round, he must have just burned a ton of bridges and the league humbled him. And, I love the historical data. Dove it right in. I asked myself, who is a great fifth round quarterback, Chad? I don't know if you could think on one for a second. I got an answer for you. It's zero. It's never
Yeah.
happened in the NFL. So I'm excited for him to prove these teams wrong and write his own story, or he's going to fall apart, be a wash out of the league in 3-4 years, and these GMs, these teams were right. So really interesting storyline to follow for the next 3-4 years, Chad, of what Sanders is going to become.
Well, look, the meltdown, the meltdown, for lack of a better term, of Kuiper and
Yeah.
watching him kind of get angrier and angrier as the days went on of how Shedeur Sanders was dropping when he had him as his QB1 from the beginning and never wavered. And he actually talked about this because I like it was riveting to me. And I think by, I don't know what it was, Saturday afternoon, um, I was watching the draft at this point only to see where Shedeur Sanders was going to go. And it's kind of like when everybody was watching the second round of the NBA draft last year to see what happened to Bronny. When Shedeur Sanders finally got drafted in the fifth round, Mel went on air and said, these are the number of quarterbacks from the fifth round who have ever made the Pro Bowl. Something to that extent. The number was zero. It was like in the third round you had like 16, and the fourth
It's an
round you had
anomaly. It's freak.
17, even in the sixth round because of Brady, but
Yeah.
like, you know, zero in the fifth round. And you really got to look at this. The NFL, for all of its failings, and we've talked a lot about the inability to accurately scout quarterbacks, it is rare. The reason why everyone talks about it when a Puka Nakua comes out of nowhere, when a Tom Brady comes out of nowhere, because those are the exceptions. Shedeur Sanders is going to have to defy tremendous odds to get on that field and be effective and be the player that everyone thought he would be in all of their mock drafts. Kudos to Evan and Raybon, who throughout their draft podcasts, they were saying this guy is not a first round talent. They weren't saying he was a fifth round talent, but like this is not a guarantee that just because he's going to a team that might be the right fit for him, that he's going to get a chance to be the guy everyone thought he could have been when they were mocking him to go in the first round.
Yeah, like I told you months ago, I had scouts tell me this guy was a second round talent. They didn't tell me he was off their draft board. Like that was the thing that was most shocking. It's like the day after, everyone's like, no, half these teams didn't have this guy as a top 4 round pick. Some had him off their draft board. It's like who had them off his draft board? Like he had to have self sabotaged, Chad. I just none of it, nothing else makes sense. Where it's like, you know, I try to go through and think of who are the cockiest personalities come out of the last 10 years. Like that's what I was trying to think of. Who would go in there and be such an asshole that they were just like, I don't care the talent level. I'm downgrading this kid. I'm not taking him.
Nobody. That's the
Exactly.
thing.
That's exactly like the only ones I could pop in my head. I'm like, even if Joe Burrow was cocky as shit, he wasn't an asshole. He wasn't ignorant about it. He wasn't going to these meetings being like, I'm hot shit. I'm not even taking an interview with the Bengals. I'm too good to go to Cincinnati. You didn't hear any of that with Joe, even though, he he can come off as arrogant to a lot of people. It's a fine line. And, he had the talent obviously to back it up where these teams are saying to Sanders, you do not have the talent to back up your personality. So yeah, it's going to be a hot topic, Jeff, for the next couple of years, just because everyone obviously had an opinion on it when it was happening. I'm sure you're the same way, where part of you feels bad, but there's another part of you of he had to have brought this on himself. Like there's no other like these guys are trying to win. This is a business. So for all of them together to take a stand and say this kid's a fifth round pick, it was shocking. Like we just said, we all at worst thought he was a second round pick. He was 3 rounds later, Chad. So yeah, definitely the craziest storyline of the weekend.
Well, look, what's interesting about the NFL and what's interesting about NFL owners is the tolerance for uh, criminal misbehavior, violent misbehavior, um, versus their tolerance for uh, attitude misbehavior, potential distractions in the locker room. Shedeur Sanders, cocky, arrogant, distraction. Colin Kaepernick, distraction. But how many players get drafted? How many players get second chances? How many players are atop anybody's draft board after egregious criminal mistakes, right? And so you can see what the line is for NFL owners. They don't want anyone who is going to make noise and challenge them from a personality perspective, but they don't mind people who are going to challenge what are considered to be the appropriate ethics and beliefs that they should have. It's a very interesting study. There's no denying it. Like where owners fall on the line of challenging personality versus challenging criminal behavior.
There is, but it's because of the money, brother. It's like I love Tim Tebow. You can't have Tim Tebow be your third stringer. That's why Tim Tebow was out of the league. Who wants to hear about your third string quarterback all the time? So I get what you're talking about, but at the end of the day, you know, a lot of these guys do have personalities. They just the money's so insane. They know, right? Don't say shit. Just play the game. So the only guy that really can say shit is Aaron Rodgers because he's on his way out. He can be a little crazy, talk about doing drugs and all this other stuff in the off season. You ain't ever gonna hear any of these young guys talking about that stuff, Chad. So yeah, I can't get over how that happened. And like you said, the whole meltdown on TV with Mel, it was theater. It's what we love as humans. It's crazy to watch.
It was such good theater.
Yeah.
It was glorious. And you know what? Good for Mel. Like, good for Mel that he stuck to his guns and he's done this in the past. Look, there's that infamous scene with Bill Polian when they,
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Jimmy Clausen. That's more recent.
well,
You
yeah,
remember Jimmy
obviously,
Clausen?
but no, I remember Jimmy Clausen and he's saying this guy should make 8 Pro Bowls and whatever. But
You said he'd
um,
quit. You said he would
that's right.
retire.
That's right. But what's interesting is like Mel is an affable guy. We love Mel. We've had him on the show
Yeah.
before. And I think he's fantastic and what he's done with the draft is amazing. But I love that he will be stubborn on certain things. And this is a relationship business, and he does not back down from it. And he cannot be challenged by anybody for his opinions because he's been right so often. And he created what has now become this massive, massive industry of covering the draft and being mesmerized by the draft. And I love the fact that he has been pounding the table on Shedeur Sanders. I don't care about Shedeur Sanders' success or failure. I am interested to see if Shedeur Sanders can make Mel Kiper look good, because that to me is going to be a storyline that is going to be relevant until it's decided. And the way these things go, look, Geno Smith, his career didn't become his career until he was 10 years in. So in 10 years, Mel Kiper might long be retired and he could finally be proven right about Shedeur Sanders.
Well, I said Sanders' ceiling was Geno Smith, so you know I don't know how much that's winning Mel Kiper. If the end of the at the end of it, if it is a Geno Smith type, it's like all right, way to go.
Well, it's funny because he does have that list of players drafted who slid down the board, who he had as much higher ranked players. Geno's on there. Jimmy Clausen is on there. I think there were 8 guys on there, and 6 of them have gone on to really productive careers. 2 of them, Jimmy Clausen and somebody else, did not. And he's got one more guy on there, Will Levis, who, it remains to be seen, but it's not looking good. That
It's
that
over.
wasn't on the list. And to me, like, I don't know, Geno's done okay. Like he's had a good few years, I think, that are sort of seen in a better light because of where he came from. And so, we're going to talk about the Raiders for the show tomorrow. And I think that they'll be in a good position, but no one's looking at the Raiders as like a threat. And so, is Shedeur Sanders going to be a guy who is good enough to make a team win some games, but never a threat? We're going to find out, but it's going to be a great story. And it's why this league is so much fun.
Give them hard knocks.
Oh, God, that would be amazing. There's all those goofy rules about hard knocks, but who knows if they're eligible for hard knocks. But if the NFL knows what it's doing, which it definitely does as an entertainment entity, they will figure out how to fix those rules. So Cleveland is 100% in hard knocks again.